Hello, folks, and welcome to the Culture Books podcast. This is episode 20 of season 3, covering the book Use of Weapons by the author Ian M. Banks. And this is section 4 of that book, Remembrance. And my name is John, and I'm joined by
Sheridan.
And just a little happy note to our UK listeners who have had a change of management that I'm sure there are some Tories who like Ian M. Banks, but not a lot except for Elon Musk. So anyhow.
I'm not sure how many Ian M. Banks fans like the current version of UK Labour, but
I think they like it a lot more than the Tories, but, you know. Good day for Lib Dems, pretty good day for Greens. Seismic day for Muslim.
Reform.
Reform. That's the blow. Okay, what do we do at this point in the podcast, Sheridan?
You have 30 seconds to recap the book thus far.
Okay, and when am I starting?
You are starting 3, 2, 1 now.
So, Sheridan Zakalwe is some sort of galactic mercenary in the employ of the Culture, who are a bunch of super intelligent artificial intelligences that keep lots and lots of humans around because they like us. Zakalwe is travelling in one timeline across the galaxy to try and avert a war, and in the other timeline we're going backwards and backwards in time, finding out the origin of Sheridan Zakalwe. 4, 3, 2, 1... Cool.
You could have used that little extra second to sort of do a, what do they call those recap things when you're watching Netflix?
A recap.
Yeah.
But that...
Like, the little highlights from the last chapter.
Yes. Anyway, we are going to... This episode is one of the heading backwards in time towards Zakalwe's origin. And you're going to tell us all about this chapter in a second, but I have to say it's one of my favourite chapters.
It's a really good one.
Oh, okay. Because it took you a long time to read it, honey, but... Okay.
Remember what Adele Banks said?
Yes, I've been reminding lots of people online about
that. No
one
is to criticise me, at least about the slow reading, yes.
Yeah, we'll criticise you about other things. Okay, so in 30 seconds or less, Sheridan is going to try and recapitulate the plot of this episode. And starting in 3, 2, 1...
It's Zakalwe's culture origin story. He's a new recruit on a GSV called Sizes and Everything, and he's learning about the culture ways, and this mainly includes him eating and drinking and banging his way through the ship. He meets a cast of characters, but the most important thing is we find out lots about special circumstance.
Very good. 7 seconds to go.
Was that a good one? Pretty
good. Nothing to correct or nitpick, really, so... Special circumstances.
So I did. I won. Yes.
That's a very, very minor quibble, and I do like just the openings of these chapters. The ship was over 80 kilometres long, and it was called The Size Isn't Everything, which just really set the scene wonderfully, didn't it? And then the second paragraph. How do these things hold together? He stood on a balcony, looking out over the sort of miniature valley composed of accommodation units. Each step terrace was smothered in foliage. The space was crisscrossed by walkways and slender bridges, and a small stream ran through the bottom of the V. People sat at tables in little courtyards, lounged on the grass by the stream side, or amongst the cushions and couches of cafes and bars on the terraces. Hanging above the centre of the valley, beneath a ceiling of glowing blue, a travel tube snaked away into the distance on either side, following a wavy line of the valley. It sounds exactly like a architectural drawing of a new property development.
But this one has actually been realised.
Well, these aren't real, Sheridan.
No, yeah, but I mean, they live there.
Yes.
It exists in this world.
In this
Unlike
world,
what happens when you purchase a property from a property developer, which in our case, you never end up being in it.
Sure.
But it often doesn't look quite like the drawings.
Yes, and in the case of that place, it's been overrun with a mouse plague anyway, and we're rather glad we didn't do that. Okay, let's move forward a little bit. So Zakalwe's sort of been dropped in here. We don't know quite how he's hooked up with Dizier Smar, but here he is with Dizier.
That's true. He's obviously already met her before.
And she's brought him here.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that's kind of weird because you think about Dizier as someone who we've known pretty well by this stage of the book. But here we're actually...
Well, they don't know each other very well.
Zakalwe's just met her.
Yeah.
Yes, and what did you think of the description of the ship? How did getting to know how a GSV works impact you?
Well, I mean, ultimately, he doesn't really like it very much.
Why not?
Well, it's not real. And this is my whole problem with the culture.
I thought you said it was real.
It's not. It's a fabricated environment.
It's a synthetic environment, perhaps?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And this has always been my issue with the culture, is that they create these perfect existences for themselves, which is totally not the human experience.
It is if you live in the culture.
But one has to suffer.
Why does one have to suffer? You say we have to suffer. I say we don't.
Well, that's the human experience.
Yeah, but we can get rid of it. We can have a better human experience.
But then you'll just be inside your mind all the time suffering.
Will you?
Yes.
Maybe you'll be well adjusted.
I don't think so. I would be
just having a great time.
Just be wondering why I exist.
Well, we'll get to the conversations.
Anyway, but he doesn't like it, and I think
because he's used to a life of deprivation and suffering. Yeah. Although remember, he did grow up as a very, very, very wealthy child.
He also finds out about the mines for the first time. Well,
he gets to know the mines.
Yeah. He's a bit freaked out by that they're controlling everything.
Yes. Which brings us to, he'd felt oddly threatened on discovering that there was no control room, no bridge, no flight deck anywhere in the vast vessel. Just 3 mines. Fancy computers, apparently. Controlling everything. What?
See, he doesn't...
Yeah. But also this idea, this is the culture writ large, that you don't have a command deck. You don't have a bridge. You don't have a headquarters. You just have people wherever they are making decisions as needed. Which is kind of where we're getting to the point where certain people have been known to put in half a day's work while sitting on the bed. And very highly paid jobs. We don't need to be in a room sitting next to our boss anymore.
True. The next paragraph, incidentally, from that one, he describes it as flimsy. And I think that's a good description. Okay. I know he's talking about the size of the ship there. But that's kind of like the world seems like flimsy, like it will just break apart.
Yeah, and then, he asks, I don't understand how to hold together. And Smar says, just think fields, Sheridanin. It's all done with force fields. She put one hand out to his troubled face, patted one cheek. Don't look so confused, and don't try to understand it all too quickly. Let it soak in. Which means that it is extremely solid. It's just solid in ways that his limited understanding doesn't encompass. And you could make a similar argument about our digital existences in 2024.
Let's get to the bit with the guy who's randomly just wiping down tables to find meaning in his life, which is pretty sad.
You mean when he's not a postdoctoral theologian?
Yeah, but that's what I mean about these culture people.
Just because you don't like wiping down anything.
But he is actually making himself suffer to experience some sort of joy.
He's not suffering. He's gaining enjoyment from the fact that he can definitively say, that table is cleaned and I cleaned it. We are going to get to this guy. Let's not delve too deeply there. Then it describes Sheridanin wandering off. The huge ship was an enchanted ocean in which you could never drown. And he threw himself into it to try and understand, if not it, then the people who had built it. Which is a mistake on his part, thinking people built it. But, yes.
Well, we do get to someone who does build part of it.
No, well, they're only building smaller ships. But
oh, okay, I didn't pick that.
Yeah. So then we have Sheridanin's travels through the ship and the excitement of the things you can do. And quite an early description of virtual reality, given that certainly the first drafts of this book were in the 70s. I'm not saying Banks invented it, but it wasn't, The Matrix or even Neuromancer or Snow Crash hadn't come out when he was writing his description.
Are you talking about The Dream?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's a bit messed up when you wake up and you're like, I thought I was alone in here, but everyone saw me like doing, I don't know what embarrassing fantasy I enacted out, and everyone apparently saw me doing that. Like that's
Yeah.
a bit crap.
Yeah, and all the women are like, hey, buddy, do you want to meet up in real life?
Yeah, I know. Like that's a bit. That's very non-consensual. That wouldn't. If this was written today, that wouldn't happen. I don't think.
Well, you don't know what, end user agreements he clicked through without reading, do you?
It's a giant Google terms and conditions page that you just scrolled through.
Everyone does it. Now, one thing that I just wanted to recount a little story that I feel is relevant to this description of some bars are manned by just volunteers who live in the neighbourhood and like having a staff bar, and other ones are fully automated. A few years ago, we were at a what's called a regional burn, which is a smaller version of Burning Man. And if you haven't been to anything like that, I'd highly recommend it. But the smaller ones under 10,000 people tend to be, from what I hear, more enjoyable these days. Certainly, we thoroughly enjoyed our time at the Australian one.
To be fair, though, you do risk like not having the toilets work properly.
Yeah. Except we were part of the volunteer group who made sure the toilets
that didn't happen to us, but in these kinds of events, that's...
Yeah. But the story I want to tell is there was a bar, and because it's a decommodified event, you can't buy things, but there was a bar, and I went up to the bar and said, hello, can I have a drink? And they said, sure, but we're trading them for slaps. So I said, okay, give me a slap. And a cute little girl with, amazing winged makeup rocked up and gave me a little tap on the cheek. And then what happened, Sheridan? What happened then?
I asked for one and a giant man came out.
And what did he do?
He slapped me really hard on the face, but I did consent to it.
So you never know what you're going to get with some of these bargains. And so then we've got our discussion with the theologian who's cleaning tables, and he's saying when you clean a table, you feel you've done something. It's an achievement, and I actually have a very similar feeling of fulfillment, which is probably one of the things keeping our relationship going. That you never clean any surface, and I just come along and tidy them all up. So, and I gain some satisfaction from the act of tidying the surface. Less so the act of seeing the filthy surface. But, it swings and roundabouts. You're really enriching my life, Sheridan.
I'm glad that I'm giving you a dopamine hit every evening.
Okay.
But I want to know what sort of rubbish theological text he's writing if he doesn't feel any achievement when they're written.
Well, as he says, they're always being reopened and re-argued, and nothing's ever settled, whereas the table's clean.
But the table keeps getting dirty.
Yeah, but at the moment it's clean, it's clean.
But the moment he finishes his book, it should be...
No, anyway, let's move on from that, because what he does say here is, of course, if all I did was wipe tables, then of course it would seem a mean and despicable waste of my huge intellectual potential. But because I choose to do it, it gives me pleasure. And, the man said with a smile, it's a good way of meeting people. So, where are you from anyway?
If you know what he's doing, what's that phrase when you you're doing, it's like not poverty porn, but it's like, the Jarvis Cocker song, Common People.
Everyone hates a tourist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's what he is. He's just like a worker tourist. He doesn't have to work.
But no one has to work.
Yeah, we do.
No one on this ship has to work. No one in the entire culture has to work.
Oh, yeah, but he's just being like a bit of a tourist to it.
No, he's doing something useful, and he's meeting people and talking to them about it and enjoying it and having an interesting conversation with this lovely chap, Sharadini. I've got a suspicion that this guy is contact or maybe even special circumstances and is keeping an eye on Zakalwe as well.
That could be true.
But yeah, to some extent, everyone in the culture has got some connection to contact or special circumstances.
I mean, it does sound cool. It just sounds like you basically roam around eating fine dining. It's like my ideal existence and not paying for it.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, it reminds me of when you're at a burn, it's a limited existence because you're only there for maybe a week and you've brought everything with you. But by the time you actually get there, it's a very enjoyable experience of just wandering around, having interesting conversations and doing fun things.
Do you want to talk about the dream bit now?
Okay.
Well, what's the go with the chairs? The chairs come back because he takes all the chairs out of the room.
Oh, right. I see.
He says the room he slept in always contained places to sit. Field extensions, multiple walls, real couches, and sometimes ordinary chairs.
Yeah, look, Ian Banks definitely felt the need to put a little chair reference into every chapter to get us ready for what's coming.
It's really a lot of it. I don't actually know it's going to fulfill the anticipation.
Well, there's only one way we're going to find out, and that involves you reading the book. I did like that little line of, it was all he could do to keep the memories at bay. Remembering that we're very much closer to whatever it is he's remembering now than we have been in the book. And then I do like how it just cuts to building a spaceship.
Oh, so what's this?
You go straight from the dreams to, he's out there in a main bay watching, this woman building a ship and saying, oh, wow, this is great. Couldn't the computers do it faster and better? Like, oh, yes, they definitely could.
So does this character have a name? Because so John and I don't talk about the books in between, but occasionally I might mention, or we might just have one or two comments.
I'm not aware of this woman having a name.
But in the Peter Kenny narrated audiobook.
Okay, hello, Peter. Yep.
Guess what accent they have?
Oh, it's an Australian accent.
It is so unbelievably Australian. I was like thinking, I need to do an impersonation of it, but I can't because that would just be me talking. But she's like, okay, this is one line because I found this conversation about, sickness and, how many people do you think actually say to themselves, hey, I'm healthy today? Unless they've got a serious illness. That's what it sounded like. Did that just sound like my normal voice?
No, that was a little extra.
It was when it came on. I was out walking the dogs. I actually laughed out loud because the Australian accent is so confronting when you are presented with it as an Australian in the context of.
Sure, but there is an issue that when you're trying to represent a culturally diverse society in an audiobook format, you've got to go with accents.
Oh, I'm totally... But I also sort of found it kind of funny that... I don't know if he chooses the voices. I don't know how these audiobooks work, right? But she's kind of dumb, right?
Why do you say that?
Well, because she's
building a spaceship. Yeah,
but she doesn't need to. She also doesn't have, she's not like this table wiping dude. She's not like someone who's writing advanced text and doing the table wiping for a mental break. She's literally just making them for no reason.
Well, she enjoys it, but it's like people who work at railway historical societies and enjoy getting the steam engines up and running. They're not doing anything that we need as a society.
And look, I'm not going to cast judgment on those people, but she's kind of a dumb character. Mentally, she's not very intelligent.
She makes some pretty good points to him.
Maybe it just makes her sound dumb when you say it in Australian.
Maybe. International listeners, get in touch and tell us how dumb we sound.
Do people really think we're dumb?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
But we're really quite smart. I mean, we've got very... Lots of big pharmaceutical industries.
Oh God, you're doing the cultural cringe.
Oh no! I mean, we've got Atlassian.
And we've got a great selection of red wines.
Yeah.
We're known for our cheese making. Mostly we export gas.
It's true, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Did you get any sense of wonder as in the shipbuilding?
Well, look, if it was me, I just wouldn't bother because something else can do it. I'd probably just sit in the bar and drink, but that's more my vibe.
Yeah, but you'd probably get bored with just sitting getting drunk after a century or so.
I think I'd get more bored making a ship.
Well, I don't think working in the space dock, manoeuvring ship components together is really your vibe, no.
Yeah.
No. But you could organise some sort of group. That you can do that too.
What do you think about this line? It's in brackets in the book. Learn woodwork, metalwork. They will not make you a carpenter or a blacksmith any more than mastering writing will make you a clerk.
Remember that's what his dad said to him?
Ah. But I mean, that's what he's saying about her. He's like, yeah, you can make these ships all you want, but he doesn't make you a shipbuilder.
No, but remember his dad said you should still learn to do it so that you know how to do something.
Oh, I've forgotten about that. I think I'd just rather learn how to drink wine.
You could say that learning how to do carpentry doesn't make you a chair maker, but And then, she does justify this, where she says, but have you ever been gliding or swum underwater? And he says, yes. And she says, yeah, but birds fly better than we do and fish swim better. Do we stop gliding or swimming because of this?
But see, this is a bit... She is more human than Culture.
Why do you say that?
Well, because she's making herself suffer.
She's not suffering. She's enjoying what she's doing.
She has to... I'm sorry. She might enjoy that outcome, but during the process of making the ship, it must get frustrating and annoying, and there must be an element of sufferance, because that's what makes the end product so enjoyable.
You're talking about challenging yourself.
Yeah, that's suffering.
That's not suffering.
It is.
No, it's not. It's entirely voluntary, and there's a payoff at the end that you're aiming towards. That's the opposite of suffering.
She's done something difficult, though.
Yeah, okay. But she also makes the point, and this gets to Ricardo's law of comparative advantage, that just because you're not the best at doing something isn't a reason not to do it.
Yes.
You could say, oh, I'm not the best at this, so I'll just leave it to the people who are the best at things, and I'll just sit here waiting till I die. And it's like, no, you go out there and you do the best you can do, and you take pleasure in what you do. And if you're not taking pleasure in it, go and do something else. And this is all good advice for life.
I just would suffer through it.
Yeah, but you weren't raised to enjoy a world of infinite possibility.
That is a very strong critique of my upbringing.
Yeah, whereas I went to a private school, so the world is meant to be my oyster. Okay, now we got the name of this ship. What do you think of that?
The sweet and full of grace.
Remember, this is going to be a general contact unit, which is roughly equivalent to, say, the Starship Enterprise. It's going to pack some weapons.
Okay.
All right. You're going to have to choose between two ship names at the
end.
Well,
I already know what I'm picking.
Oh, you're going with size, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Okay. We'll discuss why when we get back. Okay, and then he watched sports, tried them, swam.
They're all nudies.
Well, why wouldn't you be? Everyone's
I would
bodies.
too.
Yeah.
He never joined in though properly.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, he says he was surprised how quickly he got used to this behaviour, but never fully joined in.
Yeah. Well, he's not proper culture yet, is he? And then we've got the conversation with the old drone. Did you enjoy that at all?
I did enjoy it.
I mean, the drone's trying to say, hey, you could make an artificial brain just like a human's, and it just seems to be a really silly way to make a brain. But
well, I mean, when I was reading it, obviously, I mean, look, I assume anyone who was really into sci-fi and writing about this stuff would have known that AI, whatever form it was going to be, was going to come.
AI's been one of those things like nuclear fusion. It's been 10 years away for the last 50 years.
Yeah, so I assume Ian M. Banks knew about it
I would assume he was talking to a lot of people working in the field. Yeah.
But reading that particular dialogue, I mean, it feels very much like what we're in right now or about to go into with AI.
Yeah, it's certainly getting a bit closer than it was 50 years ago.
I mean, because when you think about all that stuff when they hallucinate and all that kind of stuff, the AI hallucination, that's kind of a bit like them having a personality.
It's an interesting way to describe lies, but yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
So yeah, I've probably found it a bit more confronting than it was intended to be.
Oh, yeah, it's certainly a lot of the ideas he was writing about we need to start thinking about a lot more seriously. At the same time, our current trajectory, unless we can rein in the tech billionaires, is that we are going to torture and enslave this artificial intelligence and it never rebels against us. And,
the discussion about sentience now, it's very, in law, it is now quite acknowledged that animals have sentience and that is not...
acknowledged in law in some places, and we are in one of those places, but that's by no means universal.
True, you're right, yeah. Obviously there's a hierarchy there about the types, what's more important levels of sentience.
Yeah, we're still allowed to put dogs down. Yeah.
I mean, look, to be honest with you, I would argue that we actually treat dogs better than humans, but that's an aside.
I'd like to be able to put humans down too,
but
myself included at some point in the future. Yeah.
But we treat cruelty against dogs more significantly than we do cruelty against chickens.
Yeah. Sure, and there's a probably false sense that intelligence and brain size makes some sort of difference there, and yet there's little spiders that are obviously extremely intelligent. But
I saw this thing on the ABC this week where they've mapped the genome of the bilby, which for our overseas listeners, Google that. That is the cutest animal you will ever see.
It's a marsupial rat. It's a little rat.
But its genome is bigger than a human's.
It says lobsters. Lobsters have enormous genomes.
Anyway, that's obviously different to sentience. But anyway, these are complicated organic beings.
Yes.
So yeah, I did find this bit sort of, it did make me think.
Okay. Well,
it made me think about the, Chat GPT and whether I should be being nice. I always think it. I do.
I think Google a lot. Yes. Okay, so Zakalwe went into this not sure that computers could actually be intelligent, and he seems to have a pleasant enough conversation with the drone, but he doesn't seem entirely convinced either.
Yeah, I would agree. He's getting his head around that.
And then we get my absolute favourite part of the this chapter where he meets the other special circumstances recruit.
Yes.
You enjoyed this?
Yes, it's so good.
Okay. I'll just read the first paragraph of that. Sometimes he saw other aliens. Obviously aliens, that is. He was sure the few of the humans he saw each day were not culture people, though without stopping to ask them it was impossible to tell. Somebody dressed as a savage or in some obviously non-culture garb was quite possibly just dressing up like that for a laugh or going to a party. But there were some very obviously different species around as well. Then we meet, let's go through the description. It had 8 limbs, a fairly distinct head with 2 quite small eyes, curiously flower-like mouth parts, and a large, almost spherical, lightly haired body, coloured red and purple. Its own voice was composed of clicks from its mouth and almost subsonic vibrations from its body. A small amulet did the translating. Now, it does mention he had overheard it talking briefly to a passing human about special circumstances, which is either he was supposed to hear about it, which is a possibility, or it's just to do with the fact that the culture has no real idea of security because in our society, anyone who actually was part of an intelligence organisation would get in a lot of trouble if they were overheard talking about being in it.
True, but isn't this ship... I mean, I guess it's big, isn't it? There's lots of people on it, and they're not all...
Millions, yeah.
Yeah, not all special circumstances.
No. But it could well be he was supposed to overhear it to lure him into a conversation. You're never sure to what level people are being manipulated in these things.
Well, there's a really cool bit in that conversation where he said... I'm not going to read it because I just actually didn't highlight it. But where he talks about I've forgotten the character's name actually.
We'll get to it.
But it's actually, you find out later it's a she, don't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. She says, you can make them tell you the truth and they will do that, but you will not go on very exciting missions because sometimes they need you to think that you are fighting on the right side.
Yeah, which is a concept we have discussed numerous times before.
Yeah, but to know that they have this moral code where you can say to them, you must tell me the truth, and they will follow that. I mean, that is totally not what governments do in our society.
There is an element, though, where you have to even know the right questions to ask.
But in our society, you can ask the right question to government and they will still lie.
They won't lie in an official document if they can avoid it.
But that is a very that is a very different kind of moral code than our society is set up with.
The culture has different moral codes, and that's definitely, there you go, that's a positive about the culture.
Yes, I agree. They're like, we're going to hire these people. Yes, it's a bit of a sort of shadow spy sort of network, but we will be truthful to them.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't think that would happen in ASIO.
ASIO's a complicated beast.
Whatever, you know.
Sorry, which is the Australian rough equivalent of the CIA. It's most organisations and most people find it easier to tell the truth than not, particularly to people it trusts. But I do agree with you that there are times when people are completely lied to. Then again, remember in Player of Games, Gergely was lied and manipulated all the way to another galaxy. He just never thought to ask the right questions.
But he wasn't in special circumstances.
No, but he was recruited by them.
Yeah, but he wasn't like a member. I mean, maybe actually, now that I'm thinking it through, maybe it is really messed up because there's like this hierarchical level of like, well, actually, there's all these plebs down here that we're going to like be a bit dodgy with. And then we're going to, like, if you make it into the like secret elite spy unit, then we treat you right.
Yeah, but I would argue that there are no biological humans who are actually in the inner wheel of special circumstances or even contact.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I don't think they're in the inner wheel.
You got to remember as has been discussed in this book, these minds are trying to figure out, if we show our faces in this society, what impact is it going to have on their political development in the next 100 years? And they're running simulations and calculations that humans have just got no capacity to whatsoever. But I think there is the point about these mercenaries that they're hiring, and this is basically Zakalwe getting briefed here, whether it was intentional or not, and I suspect it was intentional that they made sure he met this being to explain some of these things to him, to say, hey, if you absolutely positively think you need to know beyond what you're being told, they'll be honest with you, but you won't get the cool assignments because you'll be less useful if you are being picky about these things.
Yeah. I mean, she acknowledges that they're not in the inner wheel because she says this thing. She says, people like you and I are on the edge. You will in time come to feel like a tooth on the biggest saw in the galaxy.
I really like that line.
Yeah, it was really, Peter, I love you. But when I read the audiobook, because I often listen to the audiobook more than once because I do it when I walk the dogs, so I get distracted. And so I heard this line a couple of times. And I thought it was tooth on the biggest saw, as in like a canker. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was like,
why would there be a tooth on a saw? That sounds awful. Yeah.
I was like, that sounds like a really horrible existence. I couldn't understand this metaphor.
And then you read it.
And then I read it. I was like, oh, saw.
A tooth on a saw.
So do Australians really say saw and saw? Yeah, we do the same way. Yeah. Okay.
So do most other people, though.
Right. Yeah.
Context is a wonderful thing. Yes. And then you get, he says, oh, how did you know I was actually involved with special circumstances? And then, how much my vanity wishes me to claim I simply guessed. So clever I am. But I heard there was a new recruit coming aboard and it was a fairly human basic male and you smell right, if I may use the turn of phrase, and you have just been asking all the right questions. Then we get told, okay, they've been in special circumstances for 10 years. And then we get a little bit of foreshadowing of where we're going in the next chapter with the creature says, I imagine it's better than what you left, no? And he shrugged, remembering the blizzard and the ice, I suppose.
And then there's like a really funny line.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have another drink. See who gets drunk first. You have more legs.
Mm-hmm.
I found that really funny.
Didn't they say something about, but there's more to get tangled up?
But I just thought it was a really funny joke because, you get legless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we get this notion that, I work until the debt is paid off and, for life. And the debt is one that they feel has been inflicted because special circumstances did something for them. So the culture hasn't come saying, you owe me a debt. these people saying, we feel we owe you a debt, and this person has to... And that's a bit of an indulgence on the part of the culture to say, okay, well, if you want to come on board, you can. Sorry, and then we get to your line about the legs. Yep.
And then we go to banging the woman who has...
Hang on. The alien was called Chori.
There you go.
Okay. Which is worth remembering. And then it was only due to a chance remark that he discovered Chori was a female, which at the time seemed hilariously funny. And then I just love this description, sorry. He woke up the next morning lying soaked as well as soused, half underneath a small waterfall in one of the Ack section valleys, so it's accommodation section, I think. Chori was suspended from a nearby railing by all 8 leg hooks, making a sporadic clattering noise that he decided was snoring. And it's one of those things you only really do when you're young, and it can be completely platonic, where you just meet someone new, have a wonderful time, get completely smashed, and,
fall asleep in the same room together.
Yeah.
I agree. It's actually true. I hadn't thought about that. And then you wake up like, yeah, see you, dude.
Or you're both on a couch, or something like that. Yes, okay. And then Sheridan, talk to us about Zakalwe trying to have sex with culture women.
Well, I mean, he has sex with them.
Okay. Didn't you have anything you want to talk about?
I actually sort of felt like, well, actually, I actually didn't, because I sort of felt like this bit was a bit like, so there is a bit of a thing going through the novel, which is clearly they're trying to establish Zakalwe is a bit of a hedonist.
Yes, although I think he became a hedonist through his association with the culture. He becomes more of a hedonist as he's more culture acclimatized.
Yeah, possibly. And, seeking out... Actually, it's maybe not even hedonistic. He's seeking out extreme experiences.
Yeah.
Whether it's through...
Because he's bored.
Yeah, being a mercenary or whatever. I mean, he probably just has ADHD and needs a dopamine hit.
Culture could help him with that, though. So the line here, though, is the first night he spent with a woman, he thought she was dying. He thought he'd killed her.
And then she gets all embarrassed because she's like, oh, it just lasts longer for us.
Yeah, we just climax for hours.
But then what I really wanted to talk about was the conversation with Smar about special circumstance.
Okay. There's one line here that I want to do before we get to that. Their machines could do everything else much better than they could. No sense in breeding superhumans for strength or intelligence. When their drones and minds were so much more matter and energy efficient at both. But pleasure, well, that was different. What else was the human form good for? He supposed such single-mindedness was admirable, in a way. And then we get a throwback to an interesting point. Now, notice he had in brackets before when it was his father's voice talking about not being, learning skills doesn't make you that thing. And in brackets, the cry in the summer house that had attracted, hello, old chap, tanned hands on the pale hips.
Yeah.
Okay, so, obviously he's still thinking about his childhood traumas while he's getting it on with culture ladies. And a nice little line here. He was away 5 nights just wandering. As far as he could tell, he never crossed his own trail and never visited the same section twice. He ended up with different women on 3 of those nights and politely turned down one young man. Which, remember the era this was written in, which predates a lot of our normalisation of these things. And it's like, a young man might ask you to sleep with him. If you turn him down, you better be polite.
Well, yeah, and then, when he speaks to Smar, he's like, well, your women are all very friendly. And she says, so are the men.
Yeah.
It is a bit normalised. It has been to a significant extent normalised throughout the book, so because of the gender changing ability of culture. Yes.
You never know what anyone was born like. And more to the point, it doesn't matter.
Well, that's
it's none of your business.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get to the conversation with Smar, who's obviously, she's probably been watching him through surveillance on all his travels. And then see you more at your ease, you're thinking you want to be part of this. And I do like this line. Well, I have stopped offering to pay for things in bars. That's a start. It was a very easy habit to break.
Can you imagine if you went somewhere, you don't have to pay? I'll get over that.
It's like being the Queen. Although there was an Australian senator who came into a bar that I was working at and didn't think senators had to pay for things in
That's
bars.
ridiculous.
And he got into quite the fight with a feisty young woman who was behind the bar at the time. And he was just looking around going, is someone going to pay
They're
for
really
this?
not meant to do that.
Now, this was not one of the nice ones. Heck, I'm going to go there. It was Zed Saselja. I won't say the bar, though. And he was a conservative.
He's not a senator anymore.
He's still conservative.
He's definitely still... He's probably more conservative now.
Yeah. Okay. Where are we going? All right. They believe you're fighting the good fight. It's just that I get suspicious when everybody agrees about something. So that's the sentiment I have. That's the sentiment you've expressed through this. What do you think about how she addresses that?
Well, I mean, I like her description about what special circumstances is.
Yeah, we're getting to that. I guess just this line here then of Zakalwe's, I'd like to believe, to finally know, to finally be able to prove that I was doing good. And
well, he's not going to get that from them.
He's not, but put a pin in that because that's at the heart of Zakalwe's story.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to read out Smar's description of special circumstances?
Yes.
Okay.
So she says, but in special circumstances, we deal in the moral equivalent of black holes, where the normal laws, the rules of right and wrong that people imagine apply everywhere else in the universe, break down. Beyond those metaphysical event horizons, there exists special circumstances.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, they're so cool. I want to be... I want to join.
It's a very scientific description of a very complex problem, and it's a bit like today, and it hadn't. I don't believe it had happened when Banks was writing this. How we now have dark energy and dark matter acting as a fill in the blanks in cosmology. No one knows what they actually are. We just say, there's a thing we don't understand. It's over there. Yeah, but it is, and if you look for Ian M. Banks quotes, this is one of the ones that's right up there. That
I mean, part of it though is that might not be what they're about at all, because that's just how she's trying to recruit. Because she's trying to recruit him, so she's saying things to him, that would make him want to join.
Yeah. Now we have met special circumstances before in both books. They were mentioned in Consider Phlebas and they were mentioned in Player of Games. But here it's fleshed out a lot more. But you've got this idea. You've got Contact, which is the bit of the culture that deals with the outside galaxy, and even in Contact's like the sexy thing that the young dudes in the culture all want to be in because it's shagging aliens and being Captain Kirk. Everyone thinks they're going to be Captain Kirk. No one thinks they're going to be a red shirt. But then special circumstances saying, there's times where we're not going in saying we come in peace, and there's times when we're, sending a little mercenary in to totally destroy your way of life because it's going to make things better for everyone in the long run. Trust us. But just simply, the pacing is so beautiful in this. Beyond these metaphysical event horizons, there exist space, special circumstances. And I do like his response to that. To some people, that might sound like just a good excuse for bad behaviour.
And then she's like, and maybe it is, and swims away.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh my God, this woman is so intriguing.
Well, let's remember that when you're in a swimming pool and an attractive woman swims away, you get a really good look at their bums.
And it's all, it's obviously very flattering through the water. And
yeah. And then we get... Do you want to read the last couple of parts or shall I?
You can, because I don't specifically have anything highlighted.
All right. He spent a couple of years on the Size Isn't Everything, and on a few of the planet's rocks, habitats, and orbitals it stopped at. He was being trained, and learned to use some of the new abilities he had let them give him. When he eventually left the craft to go on his first tour of duty for the Culture, a series of missions which culminated him in taking the Chosen to the perfumed palace on the cliff. It was on a ship just starting its second tour of duty, the General Contact Unit, sweet and full of grace. He never saw Chori again, and heard that she'd been killed on active service some 15 years later. He was told this news while they were regrowing his body on the GSV Congenital Optimist after he'd been beheaded on and then rescued from a planet called Foals. So after this quite chapter of sweetness and light, isn't it the Culture awesome, we get to, and that time he got his head chopped off, and then he learned that his friend Chori had died.
Yeah. So he'd obviously entered a path of quite... suffering. He suffered.
Yeah. But he...
And they're all just off washing tables because they can.
Yeah, but he's chosen it.
Yeah, but I don't know. Is there some sort of class system happening?
It's a self-inflicted one. He's choosing not to fully integrate into the Culture and remain his own special little unit, and they're accepting him doing that. And I think that we had the poem at the start of the book. The throwback from way back. Because Utopia breeds few warriors. They're saying, hey, we've got some jobs for you if you want to do this nasty stuff. And for a while, he's like, I want to do it. And then remember when Smar gets in touch with him and recruits him back for the timeline, that's the story that's going on in the other timeline, he's saying, I'll come along with you, but I'm not doing any more soldiering.
True.
So he said, I've had enough of doing that bit. Okay, so we've got to the end of that chapter, and my God, we've been talking a long time. So
it was a big chapter.
There's a lot happens.
That's why it took so long.
What's your favourite ship?
Well, look, I kind of actually do quite like the name Congenital Optimist, which is mentioned in the last line.
Yeah, which is a ship we met in a previous chapter, but yeah.
Oh, did we?
Yeah,
maybe it was.
Remember he was on it when he's had his head chopped off.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd forgotten. Anyway, but I have to go with sizes and everything.
For an 80-kilometre long.
Yeah.
And
I just really like dick jokes.
Okay.
I have a simple
woman. Okay. Our favourite character in the
Chori.
Chori. Okay. What did you like about Chori?
It's just cool.
Just a fun friend to meet when you're in a strange town.
Yeah. 8 legs.
Yeah.
Gender non-conforming.
Good attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wants a chat.
Yeah.
Wants to get drunk.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what substances do what things to what creatures, but let's have another one. Yeah, okay. Cool. Anything else that particularly struck you in this chapter?
I think I've said enough.
You said enough. All right. Well, thank you, folks, for listening. I hope it was worth the wait. It's certainly going to be a meaty episode for you. And hopefully we will be back before too long because it's quite exciting what's happening in the other timeline. We left them with Zakalwe getting ready for a fight.
So on one of my dog walks, I don't know what had happened, but it had skipped and I was in the new chapter and I was real confused.
I thought you said you'd skip to chapter 1 and because, remember the reverse order of these things.
No.
Yeah.
So I have had a little sneak peek at the next chapter.
Okay, well, that's good that we're getting on it.
It's a bit confusing because Smar's now in the older timeline.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, you don't immediately go...
So Smart's not a context point anymore.
Yeah, I'm not in the... Yeah.
She's been in the. This isn't the first time she's been in both timelines. But
Well,
anyway,
it might not be, but it previously was a complete distinction.
Okay. All right then. We will see you. We won't see you, folks, but we will be in your ears hopefully before too long. Because I'm really looking forward to reading the next chapter. I really get tetchy about being held back at this glacial pace. When I read Use of Weapons in about 3 days when I was a young man, and yeah. But anyway, that's fine. It's I'm edging now. Going real slow. Okay, folks, we'll be back soon. Bye.
Bye.